Hey everybody, this is Sauna Stories session 1, and I'm very hot and sweaty, which is a great segue into the topic of hormones and HRT and perimenopause and menopause, which is literally the hot topic, excuse the pun, at the moment for us women. And I'd like to preface first, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a hormone specialist, but I am a woman going through perimenopause, and it's been incredibly challenging to get the right support and get the right help. And I've really struggled with the symptoms, and I'm a super healthy person. So I've heard of this happening to other people. So it's not necessarily going to be better or worse depending on your lifestyle. Like, there's a lot of factors here. And this is why it is not a one size fits all approach. What I'm seeing and what I've experienced is a one size fits all approach, where we're doing symptom checking, right? So we're checking for symptoms, and then we're prescribing off the back of those symptoms. So a lot of the time there's not any proper diagnostics being done. And like, honestly, the bloods can be quite unreliable unless you're postmenopausal. Like, they're not massively reliable. So that's why you need to do things like the Dutch test, which I'm a big support of, the 2-day urine test, which will give you a much more full spectrum picture of what is going on with your hormones. Now, what's happening at the moment is you will speak to a hormone specialist, you'll tell them your symptoms, and you'll be prescribed probably estrogel and prometrium. So those are your bioidentical hormones. You'll slap the estrogen on and you take your progesterone at night. And most people will feel a difference. They will feel better. They will feel an uplift. The majority of people will, because most of us are fluctuating and we're struggling with our hormones. So we will see a result. I did for a while, but then things change, and that's what happened to me. And what wasn't picked up properly, and I intuitively knew, is that my testosterone was lower than it should be. Now, it wasn't off the scale, but it was the lowest end of the scale. So that was with my bloods, but also with my Dutch test. So I need testosterone. I've been on it for a month, and it's been working wonders for me. So we really need to look at people as an individual person rather than this blanket HRT prescribing. And I think that's what's concerning. I know women that are on compounded HRT where they're being specifically given stuff off the back of their results. And I think we've really got to be careful that we are not just dishing out HRT to every woman, and we're not looking at what the underlying causes are. So what may be some of the things that are going on for a woman? They may have heavy metals, they may have mold, they may have all these different things going on. They may have an issue with their thyroid, and we're treating it with HRT. Now, I am pro HRT, I'm not anti it. I'm also pro herbs, but I am pro testing, and I'm pro working out what your body actually needs rather than just a one size fits all approach. And I think that's what's concerning at the moment, and that's what I'm seeing. All of my girlfriends are on prometrium and estrogel, and some of them are coming off it now because they feel like they don't need it anymore. And, do we need to be taking it ongoing? Well, how do we know if we're not testing? My estrogen levels were really low last year, and now they're in a great space. But I got prescribed more estrogen accidentally by a GP, and it completely, and I'm still recovering from it now. I look pregnant. I'll share some photos. It's insane what it did to me. The water fluid was nuts. Like, I was covered in fluid, and my body cannot detox estrogen. So this is another key thing we need to know, is can your body, and the Dutch test will tell this, can your body methylate estrogen? Can you get it out through those pathways? Because if you can't, and you're slapping estrogen all over you, you're going to have issues. So this is where you need to be looking at DIM or something like that. Even the Australian Menopause Centre recommended DIM for me because I have these funky pathways. So I think I'm not going to go on for much longer because I'm about to melt. And I've just realised, God, this is like raw and unfiltered. I've got no makeup. I'm half naked. That's why I'm talking to you all. But anyway, let's keep this real, ladies and men that want to listen to this, because it's important. But I think, when it comes to our hormones, we've got to make sure that we're individualising and personalising that approach as well. We cannot just do a blanket approach for hormones. So what's going on underneath? What else might be causing the symptoms, and how do we address that? So there's a bit of discovery that needs to happen before we start doing the hormones. Yes, we can start putting estrogel and prometrium and start feeling better. That's great, but that's not a long-term solution. We need to still test and work out what's happening, because things change. And postmenopausal women, oh my goodness, the amount of postmenopausal women I speak to who are like, oh, well, I'm out of menopause, it doesn't matter. And I'm like, yes, it does. Go get your bloods done. Find out where your estrogen levels are. If you are completely flatlined and tanked on estrogen, you may need to use some estrogen, because it's got to protect your brain and protect your bones and everything else that's going on as we age. It's like we become redundant as women. It's like biology saying, you're done. You can't give us any more babies, you can't reproduce. So in that case, we're just going to slowly deteriorate your body. And that's kind of what's happening. And it's quite frightening because we're noticing that with the symptoms of pain and brain fog and frozen shoulder and all these symptoms, anxiety, debilitating. It's like we're almost being thrown out in the trash of like, you're not needed anymore, so you can just slowly decline. And that's bullshit, ladies. We do not want to slowly decline. We want to keep strong. We need to be taking our creatine. We need to be eating proper food, protein, nutrient-rich foods, fiber, you know, making sure that we are supporting our body through this time. That's all we can do is look after ourselves. And that's why when we hit perimenopause, it's the perfect time to really start prioritizing your health. I mean, any time is the perfect time to prioritize your health. I am dripping in sweat. Love chatting with you all. Any questions, please reach out. Take care. Thanks for joining me on Sauna Stories.